Don't say it. Don't you say
Please
it.
stand by.
Come on!
Hello everyone, welcome back to 2FAST2MOVIE. I'm your host Kenny, and with me is my co-host as always, Jose Quintana. Once again, please stand by. A lot has happened. So overall, Jose, what did you think of this episode?
This episode was kind of like the whole show of WandaVision in general. Like the beginning, it was a little bit leading up to something, and then by the time it reached the end of the episode, it was like a big, well, shocker, but like also, what's the word? Just a big moment for the show.
Yeah, definitely. The show really, really loves that slow burn of its narrative. But I think, with even it being a slow burn, I think it makes good use of its time doing the setup but unfortunately just giving us just a taste of what's going to happen next. I mean, as frustrating it is, I actually like it. Before we begin, as always, if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. We upload new videos every week, and our friends Abe and Ben are covering Attack on Titans on their segment of 2FAST2MOVIE, so be sure to check that out after you watch this one. And, of course, as always, spoilers ahead. You have been warned. Okay, so a lot happened in this episode. In this episode, Wanda's, depressed and sort of processing her emotions of, kind of what happened so far, especially with what happened last week with her expanding the hex. So she was, and this episode this week is focused more on the, Modern Family sitcom type thing, mockumentary style, which I was really looking forward to, and it did not disappoint. While she's sort of dealing with all of that, Agnes sort of agrees to look after Billy and Tommy for Wanda, and meanwhile, Vision waking up, Vision and Darcy sort of tried to make their way home to find Wanda, but they sort of encounter silly obstacles along the way, like construction and a line of children just on leashes walking by. So that makes for good fun. Meanwhile, on the outside, Monica and Jimmy finds out that the director of S.W.O.R.D. wants Vision for his own personal uses, the sentient weapons program that he mentioned. So yeah, what a shock, the big white man wants to weaponize Vision. But Monica finds out, Monica finds a way to get into the hex, and her powers become fully active, and Monica was able to confront Wanda, but of course Agnes intervenes. And then, what a twist! I'm so shocked. It's later revealed that Agnes is Agatha Harkness, and she's been pulling the strings the whole time. So, Jose, your thoughts on this huge twist?
Well, for those who've been watching us since the beginning, it's we've had it called for pretty much the whole time. Kenny and his W's are scoring big on this show right now.
Absolutely.
And a small realization that I did: Agatha Harkness. Like it was, it's in the name. It's literally in the name.
Yeah, it's just Ag and then Ness. It's just yeah. Obviously, it's Agatha Harkness.
Yeah. So
real
quick. It wasn't that much of a shocker just because of the fact we called it, but at the same time, the reveal itself was really well executed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Marvel has a very well established plan of what they want to do, and they're just nailing it with WandaVision right now.
Absolutely, yeah, and yeah, I'm really loving the vision of just a mix of almost psychological horror, but not like diving too deep into that. It's just when Wanda's sort of dealing with her trauma, that's where like it leaks out the most. But they go all in with the sitcom thing, and with with Agatha's little theme song at the end, I loved very much, and I
That
was
was
just
good. That
like,
was great.
yeah, this is well done. And then it ends with "I killed Sparky." I'm like, oh my god, she's absolutely evil. She is not redeemable, but um, I love her. I love her so much. Fun fact: the actress that plays Agnes also played Olivia Octavius in Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No wonder I was so drawn to her because I love Doc Ock is one of my favorite villains. So
Yeah, absolutely. And there were some fun theories, just like maybe she's an alternate universe version of Olivia Octavius. So, but there's literally like no substance for that. Um, but yeah, let's like discuss Vision and his whole arc. By the way, I just love what I was looking forward to is just like the manual camera movements of this episode, and just seeing like a Marvel character like Vision just in frame of something like that is ridiculous and funny as hell. And I want more of this. Where can I get more of this?
yeah.
Um, yeah. So like, what do you think Vision's going through right now?
Uh, Probably a lot of trauma considering the fact that one he almost died again, and Darcy explaining his whole backstory throughout the MCU of Vision's history to
Hmm.
him, and he's just like, the best part about that is the fact that Vision looks into the camera so many times.
Uh huh.
Like, he's just like, what is actually happening, and like confusion, just like almost like he doesn't even know what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, and the interview segments are my favorite too. Just like, wait, what am I doing? I gotta go find my wife, and he just like sort of smacks the boom mic
Yeah.
as he leaves. Um, God, it's just it's interview Philly, but like Marvel. I'm loving that very much. Um, yeah, and I think I found my favorite duo now, Vision and Darcy, the chaotic good uh, duo. I just like I'm glad that like they're making great use of Darcy, because like the first two Thor movies like weren't the best, and like with I understood how some people found like Darcy pretty annoying. Um, but I don't know, I liked her, and I'm glad they're making good use of her here, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and with old characters, there's also a possibility of new characters. And in the previous episode, I don't know if you remember, but Monica mentions that she is getting help from an aerospace engineer, and I think that might tie into character reveal, um, because Paul Bettany has said that he was able to work with an actor that he's been wanting to work with for a long time, and I think that might tie into that surprise character, Um, and do you have any theories on that front, or did you not catch it?
Um, I know a theory going around was that it was Richard Reed, aka Mr. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like any other theories, I haven't done much looking into it. But I feel like Richard Reed would be a pretty decent Marvel reveal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how well familiar Monica would be with Richard Reed's.
Yeah, I think might be. Um, I like it would be very interesting if this is how they introduce the Fantastic Four. I mean, like this is definitely their realm of expertise, and Reed Richards is definitely an aerospace engineer, and he sort of deals with the whole cosmic aerospace thing. Um, but I One, I'm like, hell yeah, like I'd love to see that. Two, I'm like, that's a weird way. That's a really weird way to introduce the Fantastic Four. I'm not sure like if I'm all in for that. Um, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. If they do it. Um, I don't know. I don't know who else it could be. Maybe I'm just being dumb right now. There's just so many genius characters in the Marvel
Right.
universe, so it's just really hard to keep up. But Reed Richards is definitely up there, and they did announce Marvel's Fantastic Four, which I'm really looking forward to. Um, uh, do you- uh, what are your thoughts on like do you want it to be Reed Richards or do you just have zero opinion on it?
I kind of don't really have much of an opinion on it, but Fantastic Four also I'm excited for. So if it is him, then that's a big score for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, hey, I again, yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. If John Krasinski just walks in, just like yes, I'm Reed Richards. I'm like hell yeah, go for it.
Funny
Um,
that imagine that happening during the 2010s sitcoms because Josh
yeah.
Krasinski.
Mm-hmm. Actually, actually, no, that you're right. That would tie in really well. Like if we're continuing on the sitcoms in like the 2010s, like The Office,
Right.
that that would be That would be very meta and very interesting. Um, huh. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Um, hey, I mean, there's still a chance. We still got 2 episodes left.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, another thing that you wanted to discuss, Jose, were the advertisements, and I have failed as a host to mention those advertisements in the past, but I think especially with this week, definitely brings something up. But I want to hear your thoughts first on the advertisements.
Well, the advertisements for me, even up to now, since the beginning, they felt more so like Easter eggs of the Marvel universe, and
Mm-hmm.
because like the very first one about the toaster being by Stark Industries, I was like, oh, that's a cool little nod.
Mm-hmm.
Then with the second one about the watch, it was called Strucker, which was who captured Wanda and
Mm-hmm.
Pietro
Mm-hmm.
and tormented them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It it seems like each one has a connection to Wanda herself
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
Yep.
With last week's yogurt one,
Yeah,
I
that
forgot
one
the
was
name of it,
intense.
but
Uh
it
huh.
was a little bit harder to kind of figure out where it's placed in, like with Wanda's trauma or her history.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely been a theory going around that had to do with the Infinity Stones, like Lagos, the red liquid in the commercial, like that could be the ether, as
Mm-hmm.
someone said. But um, then with this one, the pill,
Mm-hmm.
the Nexus pill,
Mm-hmm.
that also had a team to tend with the Reality Stone a little bit. So I don't know how well that theory is going to hold up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess you're not too far off on it being the Infinity Stones. Yeah, with I didn't see it that way, but like I can definitely see how that can connect. With the Lagos one, also the voiceover for the Lagos advertisement was voiced by Grey Griffin Delisle. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, she's voice actor for Azula and 1,000 other characters.
a lot of fan favorites.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, she's great, and I'm so happy to see her in that ad. So if Gray, if you're watching, amazing job as always. Um, and yeah, with the Lagos one, like I get Lagos for spills that you didn't mean to, for the messes you made that you didn't mean to, and that Lagos connects to in Civil War
Right.
when the Avengers were in Lagos and she accidentally killed some pedestrians uh, b- with crossbones, and that's what that sort of means, like yeah, making a mess you didn't mean to. Um, I'm not sure about the yogurt one. I think that's just probably her trying to process death perhaps, and maybe the boy with the yogurt's like, I don't know, Quicksilver maybe in a way. I'm not sure, but that's far reach. I think they just wanted to be intense and disturbing on that front. Just like, like, hey, '90s commercials were weird. Let's make it more terrible.
Let's murder a child.
Yeah, let's murder a child. So yeah, and with this one, the antidepressant, I'm just like, it really takes me back to when I had cable. I'm just like, yeah, I've seen this before. But the interesting thing about the brand is Nexus. Nexus actually references to the multiverse in the Marvel Universe, actually. Nexus is sort of like a cross-dimensional bridge. It's how you access every reality. And I think that's going to play an important role next week. Not directly, but it definitely has something to do with the multiverse and how Quicksilver comes into all of it. With because now it's revealed that Agnes was pulling the strings with Quicksilver. So I'm assuming that she probably plucked a look of Quicksilver from the multiverse and uses that. Because it can't just be a coincidence that they cast Peter Evans for. I mean, I forget the actor's name. I'm sorry.
Evan Peters. You got
Evan
it right.
Peters.
Just
Evan Peters. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, that's definitely a lot of comic booky stuff this week. Like with Monica, her powers finally being activated. That whole sequence was pretty awesome with her just like sort of trying to reach through the hex, and her eyes just glowing blue. What were your thoughts on that?
I really like that scene actually, and then hearing the voices of I think the director sort of was one of them, but we also hear Captain Marvel, her mom, even the doctor from the hospital in episode 4. Like, it's just like all like circling around her, like her helping her push through to succeed in getting through the barrier, and then, like you said, the blue eyes coming up, and then just a couple minutes later, we see a little bit more of her power, like when she lands, and
Yeah.
from Wanda's power that it had me wanting more.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what her powers are exactly?
I believe it's close to Captain Marvel like, but not probably exactly that much.
Yeah, it kind of. So, in the comics, Monica Rambeau is Photon, or eventually Captain Marvel. Or yeah, I'm not too familiar myself, but I only know a little bit. Yeah, Photon. The summary of her powers is that she can control her body, change the energy in her body, anything on the electromagnetic spectrum. So, the hex is, they explained earlier in the season that the energy is similar from the radiation from the Big Bang.
Right.
So the only reason why she was able to get through that no problem was because her power's activated and she's manipulating her body to fit with the hex, and that's how she could get in. And so that's sort of like a taste of what her powers are, and I'd love to see her in battle with that. And I also love that the attire that she's wearing this episode is very reminiscent of her Photon outfit in the comics. Sort of like it's sort of more on the bluer side, but if you take a look at her outfit in the show and compare it to the comics, it's there's definitely a resemblance there. And yeah, I kind of want her to throw down with Agatha. I just want Wanda and her to team up. Actually, I also want to talk about sort of Monica's history with Captain Marvel. I think that's interesting. I got a sense that like every time Captain Marvel is mentioned, Monica is sort of just like there's a intensity to her that she you know she it's not like every time Captain Marvel is mentioned she's like, oh yeah, my mom's good friend. It feels like there's some uh I don't know how to describe it. There's definitely some tension there. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, the show's definitely been hinting that for some reason, because like the show itself, it's just covered in mystery.
And subtext,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that I almost lost the train of thought. But that Monica and Captain Marvel not necessarily had a falling out, but just like are, and also not necessarily at odds at each other, but there's something going on in between them. Like
Mhm.
probably the fact that Monica and her mom were alone for the whole time, and Captain Marvel was out in space.
Mhm.
This is a theory I'm coming up with,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
probably someone else has something like
Mhm.
that. But like, wasn't there when her mom passed away, or during her, right? The mom had cancer, was it right?
Yeah. Mom had cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Monica's a bit upset that Captain Marvel was never around to, be there for her.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely plays a part in it. Maybe her mom went on a mission with Captain Marvel, and maybe that mission caused her cancer.
Mm.
Maybe. Um, Again, I have no basis on that, but like I can only I can imagine that cosmic trips can only do so much to your body.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Monica. I want to see her. This is I like this sort of Photon origin story for her, and I'm super excited to see more in other shows. But let's talk about someone we want to see more of. Let's talk about Agatha Harkness, officially revealed. And what do you think she wants? What do you think she's doing?
Um, that's it. It's still a mystery, of course, but like, I know some people are thinking that Ralph is Mephisto.
Where the
Like,
fuck is Ralph?
like, it's either he plays a big role or he's just the one of the big jokes of the sitcom series.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, like my guess is that Agatha wants um to have Wanda tear open maybe the multiverse and like
Mm-hmm.
cause either big bats from other universes to come out and wreak havoc,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
It's it's very hard to picture what really Agatha wants, except for probably Wanda's, not necessarily her power, but just her ability to reshape reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that definitely might be it. Like she needs to harvest Wanda's power to, open the Nexus or something. Um, and it looks like her kids are definitely involved in it somehow, um, because like in the comics, Billy and Tommy are like sort of like the spawns of Mephisto, and I think she needs them because like there's sort of manifestations from Wanda herself, um, and they might have like great power and that. And Ralph, yeah, Ralph has to be, like you said, either just a bad joke, or maybe he's like Mephisto or Nightmare. That's also another character, but I think it's a little less likely that it's Nightmare, because Nightmare's basically Freddy Krueger. He sort
Okay.
of goes into people's dreams and stuff like that. The only reason why Nightmare came up as a theory of that's been going around is because like the amount of times that the hex has been mentioned as a nightmare, like this nightmare will be over, and stuff like that. With characters saying that, it might be like oh look, hey look, this is a hint. Um, but yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But with and yeah, Agatha is a witch, and this is the first time we've seen another magic user since Doctor Strange, and she also called Wanda, a magic user, because the reason why that's interesting is because Wanda was never classified as a magic user. She was just like telekinetic and stuff like that, and telepathic as well. Um, and yeah, they never called her Scarlet Witch. That's like in marketing, but in universe they've never named her Scarlet Witch. Maybe after this, but yeah, I think it's important that she called her a magic user because like her powers are just getting stronger and she can rewrite reality and stuff like that, and that's magic, and that's not just you know telekinetic powers or whatever.
Right.
And I think this is heavily this is where the bridge to Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness is going to come from. Um, yeah, yeah, that's just sort of my take on the sort of magic. What do you think of like Agatha's like? Do you think that like this whole hex thing is all Agatha's doing, or do you think it's sort of half and half where Wanda is a part of it and Agatha is as well?
Yeah. By the time the Agatha's little theme song comes on,
Mm-hmm.
it had me wondering if it was all Agatha or if it was part Wanda and Agatha, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's I want to say it's kind of half and half, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like kind of hard to tell just because Agatha seemed very aware and in control of what was happening, like
Mm-hmm.
somehow bringing Fox's Pietro and understanding who Vision was and like seemingly not being affected by the hex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think Agatha possibly either convinced Wanda to do it or controlled Wanda to do it. Maybe that's how Wanda doesn't even really know how this all happened.
Yeah, I think Agatha definitely perhaps took advantage of Wanda's grief in that moment and did the thing. Um, but hey, maybe we'll get a flashback episode next week, kind of like how we got something with Monica.
Right.
And that sequence, that intro sequence was still amazing. Monica in the hospital. That's still my favorite sequence of the show. Um, but yeah, have you seen the previews for the next week?
I don't think I don't know if they've been out yet or not.
Hmm.
I haven't seen any kind of promo for it.
Mm. Yeah, well, I haven't either, and I will not. So yeah, I guess we can definitely wrap up. So definite yay for this episode. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely for me.
Yeah. Um, so are they going to continue with the sitcom angle, or are they ditching it next week? Or
That's
so
actually something
yeah.
like I kind of wanted to bring up because at the
Mm-hmm.
near the end when Wanda's going into the basement, you see the cameras shift to the typical Marvel Studio like
Mm-hmm.
movie camera.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say whether or not the sitcom will continue or if it will be half and half, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
um the previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe it'll be a very sick twist on it, where it's just like Agatha is trying to stay in character, and Wanda is like, no, get me out of here, um, just to turn it on its head and make it an Office Parks and Rec style instead of the Modern Family type thing we were going for this week. But yeah, I guess we'll find out next week. Until then, please stand by, as the show keeps
as
telling us.
yep,
Yep. So.
unfortunately.
But yeah, thank you guys as always for tuning in. You can find us on most places you find podcasts like Spotify and Amazon Music. Our friends are covering the MCU movies. I believe Infinity War and Endgame are coming up soon, so please be sure to check that out. And thank you for listening. And as always, it's 2FAST2MOVIE.